Welcome to Curito Connects. I'm your host, Jenn, and I've been conversing with friends around the world about life challenges and impactful moments. Conversations on this platform look at answering the questions how we overcome challenges and how our experiences shape who we are and the work we do today. I hope this work can inspire you on your own personal and individual journey. Let's dive right in. Hello, my guest today is Taiwan-based British photographer Duncan Longden. Hi, Duncan, and thanks for joining me on Curito Connects today.
Hi, Jen. Thanks for having me here after numerous attempts.
That's okay. Life takes us on many different paths and many journeys, and sometimes we're just not quite there yet
That's right.
to reflect and collect our thoughts to be able to present it eloquently in a way to share, inspire, and empower others. So Duncan and I met last year through a mutual friend, Yoni, from Flavor Journey. And without actually meeting in person, Duncan captured the Curito Family and Friend launch event in May 2022 beautifully. And I think it was when we exchanged the files that I finally got to sit down over coffee with you and chat with you somewhere to kind of learn about your story. Yeah. Originally from Oxfordshire, Duncan has spent his career working in various roles. And in this episode, we dive into the challenges that he encountered, taking that leap of faith to quit his job in the UK to move to Taiwan, restart a new life out here as a photographer, and the challenges and obstacles he faced in both his professional and personal life, and why it is important to seek support and find tools to cultivate a healthy mindset. So without further ado, I'm going to let Duncan introduce himself to us first before we dive into the conversation.
I don't think there's much more to say there, isn't there? You just covered the whole thing. Yeah, I am Duncan. I am from the UK, and as Jen said, I grew up in Oxford and all that good stuff. It's been a journey. I'm Gen X, so I just turned 50.
Right, that's what I was going to say. Happy birthday.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm one of those probably annoying Gen X people that's like, I grew up without telephones and blah, blah, blah. But I'm glad about it. And I think it's a skill set that's helped me take on all the challenges that have been thrown at me, particularly over the last, 5 years. But where do you want to begin? Oxford?
Let's begin at Oxford.
Okay, so I grew up in a town just outside Oxford called Woodstock, which is a pretty interesting place to grow up in, out in the countryside, and free life, motorcycle riding as kids, running around on the fields out until the sun came down, that kind of life, school, pretty much wasted my whole time at school. Didn't do very much, but what I did do was, I realise now the school I went to is quite different. So if I was to turn around to you and say I did beekeeping at school, it's probably something most people didn't do.
But did you do beekeeping at school?
We did beekeeping at school.
That's so cool!
It's kind of cool, right? So I learned all about bees and stuff, and other things. We could do a lot of technical things, metalwork, pottery, woodwork, all the practical things.
I would go to your school. That sounds so fun.
It was fun, but it was a gauntlet. It was it was a school in the countryside in the UK, and you'd think that would be kind of idyllic, but there was a lot of bullying. Everybody's a bully at some point, I think, if you're in that situation, and I'm guilty of that, and being on the receiving end of it. But you have to turn around and stand up for yourself. So you learn to do that. But my school was a bit odd. It was just in a transitional period between CSEs and O levels to GCSEs. So I was the second year to do GCSEs, I think. And the school was not in a good place. But I came out of there, and I always had a fascination with animatronics and special effects for film and television. So I ended up going to college and studying media. And just as it changed to computer-generated images. So I did 2 years at technical college studying media and film, and then failed to get onto a CGI course. First year, if I'd have been there a year earlier, would have been a problem. But it was completely oversubscribed by the time it came to me because, of course, it was becoming very popular. So I fell into photography and travelled up to the northeast of England to a place called Middlesbrough. I should just flip back a little bit. When I was in Oxford, it was right in the middle of the rave scene. So we were going out at weekends, finding parties, no mobile phones. I don't know about the statute of limitations, but none of us had driving licenses.
Okay.
And I can probably say this now, actually, because our main driver, unfortunately, he's passed away now. So we'd be going, borrowing cars, buying cars with no radiators in, just to get to the party, not worrying about how to get back again, and travelling all around the south of England to all-night parties, and then coming home Sunday, sometimes later. And of course, our parents didn't know. I mean, it was on the news, but they sort of had an idea where we've been, but didn't know exactly what we've been up to. So it was an adventure, and I wouldn't change that. It was some of the happiest times of my life, those weekends. You know, you turn up to a place, you don't know where you're going to go and what the night's going to bring, but you just with a bunch of mates, and then you know, someone comes past, everyone runs to their cars, you jump in and you're in a convoy to a party, and you turn up in a barn somewhere, and it's go time, you know. It's great fun. So yeah, I miss those. Roast.
Do kids now back home where you grew up, do they do that?
Yeah, they're still raised,
same,
yeah.
Same kind of like format, but now it's smartphones.
No, smartphones, that's easy, right? You know, you know where you're going. You're not just randomly asking people in a petrol station after phoning a number with a voicemail on it, you know, that look out for this car, it's going to come through.
Social skill set right there.
Oh, amazing.
Instilled very early.
Yeah, adventure time, you know.
I think kids these days without their phone would not know what to do.
No.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, they should have taught it in the Boy Scouts how to go raving. So anyway, that was cool. And anyway, so yeah, eventually I left that behind and went off to study photography. And I went to Middlesbrough, and I was a guy from the south with dreadlocks, wearing an Oxford University shirt because we were part of the crew, Oxford crew. Nothing to do with the university, that was to do with the rave scene.
Right.
And I rocked up in Middlesbrough, and it was just, for me, horrible. It was a not very welcoming experience.
Oh, why not?
Well, maybe I just wasn't ready for it, or maybe I just had this big idea in my head of, you know, what I was. But when you have people stop their taxis and get out of their taxis and say to you, "You're white, not black, why have you got dreadlocks?" And I didn't understand what they were saying because their accent's so thick. So I'm, "What's that, mate? What's that?" And then I realise, oh, I'm in some trouble because this is a proper northeast industrial town. Great shopping, oddly enough, but real hard men. And I could have been in some problems there. But I navigated that. The college I went to as well wasn't giving me what I needed. And so I transferred and went to Birmingham. And when I was outside Birmingham in a place called West Bromwich, living in a town called Tipton, in a block of flats. From the 7th floor to the 11th floor was all photographers and sound engineers.
Oh, that's fun.
Partying.
Very inspiring.
Yeah, but from the 6th floor down was like some of the poorest families in England. So quite a you know, conflict almost of these what they would probably seen as privileged students getting to do whatever they wanted to do, and these guys sort of toughing it out really. But I loved it, absolutely loved Birmingham. It's fantastic, and the people that I met there were amazing. And partying continued. I got work taking photographs at clubs, on film. And then the decision came, do I continue and do a degree, or do I go back and work? And then, you know, relationships come and go, right?
Yes.
And a relationship came along, and it looked like I was going to go to India with this girl.
for like yoga, namaste, soul searching at that point?
Full moon parties.
Full moon parties.
Let's be honest, come on. This is the 90s, and 96. I'm still part of the scene's still going on. So,
So you guys would just hop on a plane and go to India for full moon parties?
well, I wouldn't just go for the full moon party. Obviously, we'd go and travel there and spend some time. So
did you go?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
So I got up. I started working in a place I went back to Woodstock, where I grew up. Started working in a place called Owen Mumford's. Anybody from Woodstock knows Owen Mumford's. They basically employ anybody.
Bless their heart. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, considering some of the stories I could tell you about the people there. Wonderful, mind-blowing ignorance. But anyway, at least they were earning. So I was there earning some money. The idea was like, this girl, she'd come back from her family's home in Italy, back to the UK, and then we were going to go to India together. However, I decided I'd rather pass my motorcycle test because the law was about to change, and buy a motorcycle. So when she came back from Italy, I told her I've just spent all my money, and now we're going to go and buy a motorcycle, and that happened.
Oh, so you got to keep the relationship and the motorcycle.
For a minute. Yeah. I still got a motorcycle.
It almost sounded like I went for the motorcycle and...
Over her.
Yeah.
No, she caused so much more drama. It's hilarious. We're friends now.
Beautiful.
But yeah, there's a lot of drama. That's part of the reason why I left Woodstock.
Oh, is it? So you just then took the motorcycle and left Woodstock? Pretty much.
I left Woodstock in a cloud of tyre smoke, and off to London.
Okay. So you said goodbye. At this point, you kind of fresh grad.
Yeah.
Still kind of, okay.
Yeah.
Then what happens from here?
So I rode off. I got a job in London. Left the town I'd grown up in, and we'd had a house there 25 years, thereabouts. Everything I knew and grew up with, and just thought, right, I'm done with it.
Because you weren't feeling fulfilled, or you were hungry for more, you wanted to do other things?
Things had changed, I mean, look, the people that we went with, one guy had problems. When I was studying in Birmingham, a good friend of ours, Matty, he decided he'd had enough, so he committed suicide. And it was traumatic for everybody. And it's still remembered every year. His birthday comes around, we all think about him. And I had difficulty dealing with it at college. And I went to my tutor, Roger, bless him, wonderful man at West Bromwich. And I told him the trouble I was having. And his answer was, oh, my friend was a great mountain climber. And I'm off on a bit of a tangent here. A great mountain climber, and he was told that if he doesn't stop climbing mountains, he's going to die from a heart attack. And he didn't stop, and he died on a mountain of a heart attack. And I just looked at Roger and basically made it perfectly clear that wasn't an answer to the question I had. So I got lost a little bit, and threw myself into my work there, and that's something I've done ever since. So if I've got to deal with something on a emotional level, I think we make our own opportunities, and we deal with things our own way. And my way is to work through it through work. So to be proactive on something, and I kind of learnt that there to take that energy, good or bad energy, and just utilize it because it's still energy, right? So that was a lesson I learned. I was like 22. So anyway, I left college, got this job in London, and realised that whatever I thought was happening in Woodstock, that was over. It was time to go, and just go. So I'd said to my friend that I've known this guy since I was like 3 years old. I stayed at his house in Woodstock, and at the time I was getting my hair dyed leopard skin, and I said, I'm going to get my hair done. And off I went. Said goodbye to everything, and didn't say goodbye to him, just I'm just going to get my hair done. In my mind I said goodbye to everything, and got on my bike and rode off to London. And I was staying in with my cousin in a place called Stockwell, although he called it South Victoria, which is a bit romantic at the time. So this is 96. Rocked up in London.
As a photographer?
No, I was working in a photographic lab.
Okay.
Called Joe's Basement, and That was in there are a couple of places. One of them was in Soho on Wardour Street, so right in the middle of Soho, and the other one, the place I worked mostly, was Warren Street, which is up near Euston Road at the top of Tottenham Court Road. For anybody that knows London, and this is '96, so King's Cross was still pretty rough, and I wasn't far away from that, and Soho was still Soho, you know, it's still full of the trappings of that kind of seedy area. But then we loved it because then that was life, and the lab in Soho ran 24 hours a day, so I could tell numerous stories about that, but probably not for this show. So anyway, I was working there, and just I fell into all the trappings of London.
Okay. And when you say trappings, what does that normally mean? For those of us who don't know what trappings in London.
Well, if you take a boy out of a town and you put him into a big city, and everything's available, and you don't really have to pay much for it, shenanigans will happen.
Right.
And you will have to pay for it eventually. And it took a toll. And I was working long hours because I wanted to be in the print room, but essentially my job there was an admin job to start with.
Okay.
So I was booking jobs in the mornings. So I was working from like 8:30 in the morning till 10 at night. So I was kind of doing two jobs, and then partying all the time. So every weekend we'd be out to different clubs. We'd be phoning up the clubs. Oh, we've been doing some work for you, blah, blah, blah. Can we get guest list, blah, blah, blah. And in we went. You know, this is when you had legendary doormen like Lenny McLean on. So, you know, we knew everybody, but we would be going in and having a good time. And it was fine for a bit, but you can't do it. People can't keep up with that.
So how long did you do it for?
About a year.
Oh, okay.
Bit longer than a year.
It sounds so tiring.
Oh, God.
I mean, it sounds fun, but for a whole year, all around the clock doing it, just you weren't burnt out? Did you?
I was totally burnt out.
You were totally burnt out.
Yeah, you know.
So
yeah,
what was the switch that you were like, okay, I can't keep doing this, or did you get in trouble? Or?
I got basically put into a position in the company that you do what you really don't want to do, or you leave. Oh. So we would probably call that constructive dismissal now. However, they should have sacked me. You know. I was good at what I was doing. I was really keen to learn, but I was also like, I want to be this. And people knew me as being this. And once you kind of get stuck in that, it's difficult to get away from it.
Right.
And it takes a level of maturity that I didn't have then.
So what did you do at that time?
Left.
You left?
Yeah, I left. Left London. Had nothing again. And my parents were living up in a town in the Midlands, where they still live. And I ended up back there again. Now, I used to skateboard a lot when I was a kid. And actually, I skateboarded and skateboarded and skateboarded. Loved skateboarding in the 80s. And then my brother said to me, when I was about 21, oh, Duncan, all your mates are in the pub. Why are you still skateboarding? And I made the horrendous mistake of going into the pub.
Oh.
And that was just the end of it. You know, it was awful. I just fell into it. I used to get so paranoid that people would talk about me that I couldn't leave the pub. Now, maybe I'm being too honest, I don't know, but this is the truth of it. I went in, I'd be in the pub 11:30. I wouldn't leave till everyone else had gone. 11:30 in the morning. And I'd just be boom, boom, boom. And that started before I went off to college, you know. And oddly enough, it's a bit foreshadowing. The story will come around. So anyway, I ended up at my parents' place, and I skateboarded a little bit. So I was there for 7 months. I wanted to get back to London.
Okay.
So I was looking for something.
And what did you find?
Romance for a minute.
Okay.
And it was enough to get me back to town.
Okay.
So I got back to town, went back to the same company that I'd been working with.
Oh, they took you back.
Started working as a bicycle dispatch rider, and I was there for 3 hours, and management found out I was in the building and said, no, you can't be here.
Oh.
You've got to go. So there I am now. I was staying on my friend's floor. He had happily enough given me somewhere to stay, even though I hadn't spoken to him for a year. He said, yeah, you can stay. And what am I going to do? So I phoned up a courier company and I said, I've been working as a cycle dispatch rider for 6 months in London. I want to get back on a motorcycle. Can you help me? Yeah, no problem. We'll get you a bike. Come in. So I started dispatch riding and I had no idea what I was doing at all. But, and there I was in this weird world. And dispatch riding is a weird world.
Can you give us a little glimpse of what dispatch riding is for those who don't know what dispatch riding
so
is?
You're on a motorcycle, you pick up a package from one spot and you take it to another place.
Oh, it's like in Taiwan, like La La Mu and
Bit like that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but when I joined the dispatch riding, life expectancy was about 3 months. It was up there as one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, motorcycle dispatch rider in London.
They pay well and give you insurance, I hope.
No, you're self-employed.
Oh.
And try and get an insurance as a motorcycle dispatch rider with those odds, it's impossible.
Okay.
The money was good. But the work was hard. And all weathers, the worse the weather, the busier you're going to be because people won't come to work.
Right.
But you're given, like a taxi driver one time said to me, why are you dispatch riders always in such a rush? And I said, well, we get minimum. So £3
Right.
from A to B. And then a little bit further, it goes up incrementally. But within this mileage area, you're going to get that much money. Right? So you do a thing called a circuit. So each company has their own clients. And you'll get a radio. So you get called on the radio, whatever your number would be, and you answer it. And then you keep your bike dirty so that you can write in the dirt with the postcodes. And then you'll know this company or that company, I'm going to wherever, right? And you'll get to know everybody. And you race around all day long. And the taxi driver said, well, and I said, well, it's the opposite to you. We're on a minimum, but when you get a fare, you start the clock and then you slow down so you can run the clock up. And he went, yeah, that's right. So I said, there's the difference. But it was the best of times and the worst of times.
Okay. And you did that for how long?
I did, and but it also gave me the freedom to work in photography as well. So I started to assist. So for 3 years, I made my money racing motorcycles around London and working as an assistant because I had that freedom to do it. And accidents, lost people weekly and saw horrendous things on the road, but met some characters. And there's some of the guys I work with still doing it. That's crazy, yeah. And I'm involved in this group on Facebook, and this like, it's always a reminder. But you do your 3 years, right, and then you've got some level of respect in that industry. And I did it on a sports bike, not a chug about. I did it because I like riding motorcycles. And yeah, sometimes I'd walk away with some reasonable money, and sometimes I just wouldn't turn up to work, and then they'll punish you because they give you the work. But if, or Friday night, you're going off to the other end of the country. It's raining, because that's how you've got to make your money because you haven't been in there. So I did that, and then I moved around London with that. So I started out living in a place called Belvedere, which is way out, and then I had to move out of there, and I ended up right in the middle of London, in West 1, just living just between Tottenham Court Road and Oxford Street. So right in NoHo, it's called. It's just off the borders of Soho, and it cost me £100 a month. Right, in 1999. Pretty cheap, right?
Yeah.
And it was great because I could just turn on my radio in the morning and say, yeah, West 1 standing by. I wouldn't even have to get out of bed, and I'd be right where I need to start. But then that didn't work out, so I had to find somewhere else to live. And then we ended up out in, I can't even remember the place it is, way out in E6 on the east end of London, and pretty rough area. Weekend we moved in, someone got shot dead in a pub near our house. And I shared a house with a guy called Fian, and that was blurry. So, I was pretty self-destructive for a long period of time.
And were you partying still at this time?
Just drinking.
Okay.
Yeah, just drinking. I did get to shoot some stuff. I shot the Ministry of Sound at the Millennium Dome for the Millennium Celebration. Okay. So I got a photographic job to do that. Turned out the company that booked me to do that, they didn't have any sort of ticket to get me in. They gave me a fake pass.
Oh. Okay.
And they gave, one person was going to the ministry in town, and the other one was going to Turnmills. These are 3 big clubs, and the other 2 didn't get in. They got turned away at the door, but I got in, Just on, oh yeah, I'm in for blah blah blah, and the security went, in you go. So that was quite good fun. So I was still doing some work, and then I realised that I couldn't continue.
Tired or dangerous or
Yeah, just
not
graft.
your okay.
Yeah,
You had another burnout.
I did basically. Yeah, I mean it's been one to the next to the next, and so I got a job working on the King's Road. I don't even know how I managed to get into that job. Anyway, I was working on the King's Road at King's Road Sporting Club, which is quite a famous place.
As a
Retail manager.
oh.
Yeah.
You covered all grounds.
Just doom in it when.
As a retail manager. Okay. But you didn't really have prior experience
No.
but they just hired you and said, all right.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
Okay.
I really don't know how that happened actually, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. What did you like about it?
I liked the interaction with people.
Yeah.
I had some service industry stuff before when I was at school doing the sixth form, my A-levels. I worked in a sandwich bar in Oxford. And I really enjoyed that. So, you know, I just like the interaction with people. People would come in and we'd be selling them ski wear. And just, it was fun. You know, the environment was fun.
And how long did you do that for?
A year. A year, and then the company that I was working for was a subsidiary, a concession in the King's Road Sporting Club, and the chap that was running it was kind of running it into the ground. And somebody said there was an opportunity to work at a motorcycle shop in Clapham.
Oh, more up your alley.
You'd think. So I applied for that, and I got that job, and it's easily the worst job I've ever had in my life.
So not even a year.
No, I did a year there.
Oh, you did a year there.
And I did a year there, and it got to the point where I was just asking anybody that came in, what do you do?
Oh, yeah, to get an idea. Like,
to get an idea, yeah.
So what did you find? What was the next pivot?
A guy came in, and he said, I work for a key holding company. And I said, what's that? And he said, basically, if you've got an alarm system that's monitored, you have to have two people to answer the alarm, or a registered key holding company. And I work for the key holding company. I said, what does that involve? He said, basically, we get a motorcycle, a fuel card, a clothing budget. We work 1 week on, 1 week off. We sit in a room, 3 of us, and when an alarm goes off and it's your turn, you go and pick up the keys and go and deal with whatever you have to deal with. Or somebody might want a cat feeding or something. And I thought, oh, that sounds good. I said, are any jobs going? He said, contact this guy. So I contacted this chap, and he said, we'll keep you on the books. And a week later, a position became available. So I went in for the interview. One of the questions he asked me was, do you think you could handle the boredom? Yes. Anything's better than what I'm doing.
It's a fair question.
Yeah. And it was an honest question, because some days you're literally sitting in a tiny room watching the sun go past the window. Yeah.
And there was no Netflix back then.
No, there wasn't. No.
Like, yeah.
Bring a DVD in.
Yeah, DVDs.
Yeah. I'll go and clean your bike umpteen times. But when, it was great. I loved it. The company, it's a family-run company, very old company.
Okay. So there's legacy. There's like bonding.
It's very much management level and then everybody else. And, for a while, it was all right. A couple of things, I'd grind my gears. But I'd go and speak to the boss about it. And, he was kind of straight up. And that was fair enough. And I just got stuck in that job.
For longer than a year.
For a long time, yeah.
Longer
But
than 3.
Yeah. I was doing the key guarding response side of it, and then it moved into personal protection and rapid response. So it became interesting, and we got to see some stuff that you wouldn't expect to see. There's a million stories of it. We're the people that go into your house when you don't expect us to be going in.
Right.
So whatever you've left out, it's there. We keep our mouths shut about it. Most of us.
So you had to sign NDAs and stuff.
Nope.
No. Oh, okay.
No, everyone said, have you got military background? No, nobody. A few people, but yeah, I mean, it's a real ramshackle group. Most of them come from the dispatching world.
Okay. Interesting.
So they're vetted, and they all have to have licenses, and you can mostly trust them. Anybody out there that's listening that has the key holding service.
It's worth having.
It is very actually. Do you know what? That's part of the reason why I stayed there, because I believed in the service.
You believed in the service.
And
you would encourage people who would need it.
I had it.
Yeah.
We had them looking after our property when we left, because it's just incredibly useful. We all live busy lives. You've got deliveries coming.
Yeah.
Well, you can pay somebody, you know, £25 to go around and pick up your delivery, or wait for the engineer to come in and fix your washing machine, or water your plants while you're on holiday. Why not? You know, so it makes sense. So anyway, yeah, I was there doing that, and I did it for 4 years, and then a promotion became available, and I applied for it to become the surveyor, and I got that. So I went from working shifts, which I actually really liked, actually every other week off, and having a free motorcycle to ride around on. It's like a result.
Oh, and a clothing allowance.
Yeah. I mean, I've still got still got all the best motorcycle gear out of everybody that I ride with now. Yeah, it was good. Anyway, so I negotiated the package for the promotion. I became the surveyor, and part of that was increasing my clothing budget.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And during this time, you just left photography completely, or you?
Because I kept my hand in.
Okay.
I always kept a camera. Didn't always use it very much. I started shooting all the product stuff for this company because they made locks and things as well.
Yes.
So I started shooting all that.
Still
Thanks
always
for bringing that
there.
back. Yeah. Always practicing it.
So then what was the big shift? It sounded like you really enjoyed this career path you were on. It kind of fulfilled you in different ways.
It did.
Your curious mind, it allowed you to have the flexibility to do photography, but also gave you security for a lifestyle. You were learning a lot. Every day, every week was a different adventure because of the different cases you guys were being dealt with.
Yeah, and when I became the surveyor, it's the different people I was meeting. And yeah, I mean, it was interesting. There was a lot of interesting people to meet. And I probably didn't take advantage of the opportunities that I could have found, because we're essentially quite lazy, most people. And I was just in this job. So it was a 9-to-5 job. And some of it was a battle. Some of the people I worked with were difficult. And I was very honest with them. And when I came to leave, they said, "Oh, we'll still be friends." I said, "No." No, we're not. You're just somebody I have to work with. And I was like straight with them, because why pretend, you know, what's the point? So, and some of them were just, I'd pull my hair out. I was like, "Oh, really?" But I'm sure we all meet people like that. But yeah, so I did it. And then another opportunity came for a promotion in the company. And I signed up for that.
Okay.
Had they come quicker with that offer to fruition point, after getting offered and given the position, it started taking weeks and nothing changed. And I was saying all the time, "Oh, when am I going to be moving over to the alarm side?" Because it was going to be a salesman's job, and they were going to give me Hampstead. So an affluent part of London. I knew the industry. I knew both sides of it. I could have been selling those all day long.
So what happened?
I got bored of waiting.
Oh, but what was taking them so long? Or you never found out?
I did find out. But in the meantime, a guy that I studied photography with, who's a very successful fashion photographer. Now, I'd got married by then. Okay, so if we just jump over that part, right? I met my wife through motorcycling in London, in a motorcycle group in London. We got married and we bought a house. Okay, so we're living in this house, golden, happy days, Kingston, beautiful place, little Victorian terrace, little garden, just ideal. And relaxed. Richmond Park, a mile away. The river, a mile away.
Sounds so ideal.
Yeah, really nice. Friends, motorcycle mechanic on the back of the house.
And
like literally.
Photography for fun when you want it.
Yeah, and I could.
And you're married. And
yeah, and I could turn part of the house into a bit of a studio and shoot. And I was starting to shoot more. And pushing myself.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was ideal. And so my friend, he's getting married in Spain. I went over to Spain to go to his wedding, and I realised actually what I should be doing is photography. Now, when I fell out of photography, just to go back to, this is kind of in the retail time, I fell out of love with photography, or the photography industry, because in the late 90s, it wasn't a particularly savoury area to be in. And I could see, the Me Too movement came later, but I could see some of the people that should have been in that, what they were doing. And also people that should have been working in it were being ignored because other people looked better, but weren't as qualified. And I believe in a meritocracy. And I'm also, as I said, if people say to me, "Oh, we're still going to be friends," and we're not, I will tell them. And I would tell people straight up, that's not right. Whether they're somebody that I should be nice to because it's going to help me career-wise or not. And maybe I'm my own worst enemy for that. But I always believe that there should be a level of honesty, and people who deserve a job should be given that opportunity over people that just look nice, because that's unfortunately the way of the world. And so that time I just said, no, I can't be doing this. And that's part of the reason why I walked away from that and got into retail. I haven't thought about it for so long. You'll have to forgive me for being a bit disjointed.
Oh no.
So we got married, and I came back from that trip, and I said to my wife, I'm done doing with this security company. Yeah. I want to leave. I want to go back into photography full time, and I want to do that in Taiwan. My wife's Taiwanese, if you're wondering why I'd suddenly choose Taiwan.
Yeah, if you didn't say that, I was going to ask, why Taiwan?
Yeah, so
why are we sitting here right now?
I'd been here previously, obviously.
Visiting her family.
Visiting and being introduced to the life here, and I could see, in the long run, this would be a better place to live than England. I could see where England was going. As much as I love the UK and I'm proud of being British, it's not the country. It sounds awful, but it's changed so much. London changed so much. The time I spent, 18 to 20 years I spent there, it went from being what I considered an interesting place to being a bit dull. It's not particularly safe. It's got the trappings of every large European city and probably every large city in the world, but there's a level of crime there, there's a level of cynicism that makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. And particularly in the security side of it, from what I was seeing, a lot of it, don't get me wrong, there was very, very few break-ins, but some of the stories I saw, and more importantly, the way that these crimes were treated by the police, I could see this is not something, society's not working very well. And a lot of my friends moved out of the town as a result of that. They could all see it happening. So I saw an opportunity in Taiwan. So I turned around to the company and said, well, that's it, I'm handing my notice in.
Before the promotion?
I'd been offered the promotion and I'd been signed on to it, but I hadn't started the job, and it kept putting it off, delaying it, thank you. And I asked, why has it not happened yet? Oh, because your boss likes you doing what you're doing. He thinks you're good for the company. I said, well, that's very nice to hear. If he wants to keep me, he needs to increase my wages considerably, or just let me move to the other side of the company because I'm clearly an asset. And they said, well, that's up to him. So I spoke to him. He didn't give me a definite answer or a date. So I said, here's my notice. And I gave them 6 weeks' notice, trained the new person up, and I left. And I didn't leave on bad terms. I still drop in and see them. And he sees my work in magazines and will send me an email occasionally saying, well done, Duncan. But I always had this problem because there was a lot of talent in that company and they never saw it. They just saw you in a box, You ride a motorcycle, therefore you must be this sort of a person. And that's such a negative way to see things, blinkered. Because bikers come from all walks of life, as does everybody else. So I left, thinking we were going to come to Taiwan, and we didn't.
Oh.
No, we stayed in London.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I was there, stuck. No job. Nothing.
So what did you do in between the having moved to Taiwan to then actually packing up and then moving here?
Yeah, I started taking photographs for estate agents, realtors, they're called in America, right?
Yeah.
So I was doing floor plans and photography and riding around on a motorcycle, and I worked for 2 companies, and one company was all stick and the other company was all carrot. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of. So one company was like, we love your work, Duncan, you're fantastic. And the other company was like, can't you do better than that? And I was thinking, what? I'm doing the same job. One company's nice and the other's nasty. And because I could travel easily, for the company that wasn't very nice to me, they'd give me all these bigger houses or difficult houses to measure. Yeah, and all the guys that were on the buses or the trains, they got little apartments to do. So they could do 10 a day. I could do 2. So, and I'm getting paid. They'd always be just beneath the threshold of footprint, square meterage on the floor plan to be still the lower pay bracket, and I didn't appreciate it. And then I came to the realization, look, I'm just doing the same thing I was doing before. Here I am doing the same thing. I'm riding around on a motorcycle, doing something I'm not particularly enjoying. I've got to make a decision. So I turned around to my wife and said, that's it, I'm going. You'll have to follow.
With or without you?
Yeah, you'll have to follow me later. So I did. I came to Taiwan on my own.
Without her first?
Without her, yeah. So we both moved out of the house in London. She moved in with my parents in the Midlands.
Oh,
and
wow.
I moved in with her parents in Linkou, in Taiwan.
Wow.
For a year and a half. And I had no language skills. I came here with less than, I think, about £1,500 in my pocket. That was it. Sold my bikes I had in the UK. I sold everything I had, packed it all up, and just came here, 4 months it took for my stuff to arrive. I dismantled my computer, brought it here, then realised it wasn't going to work because you've got 110 volt and we work on 240. So I had to rebuild all of that, and then started networking to try and find work, and it paid off. I came with that attitude of grafting.
You're gonna make this work.
Yeah, that London graft. You've got to make it work, and just nose to the grindstone.
And so, how many years ago was that when you?
10 years.
10 years. You're celebrating your 10 years in Taiwan now.
Yeah, 2013 I came. So 2012 I got married and I quit my job. 2013 I came to Taiwan. Yeah.
What a journey.
It's quite a journey. Yeah. So kind of scooted over it all, but
we still have a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
We still have a few minutes. Well, we're now in Taiwan, so we can try to cover the grounds of Taiwan here. That you basically had the same mindset to hustle.
Yeah.
You built your photography career here as a foreigner by networking, by putting yourself out there, showing your work, picking up any gigs that came about.
Literally doing anything.
Right, literally doing anything.
Yeah.
And eventually your wife came?
Yeah, she did. A year and a half. She found a job and came out to Taiwan. Yeah.
And then what happened in between?
Right. Well, yes. So I met a guy through the British Chamber of Commerce, and he really liked my portrait work. I've been shooting a lot of portrait work. I love shooting portraits of people, and I love vinyl records. So before I left the UK, I started a project called The Collectors, where I go around and photograph people who like vinyl, whether it's one record or multiple records. And it formed this format. It was always going to be a square format, but it became a thing that had to use a certain lens and light it a certain way, so that it had this language in this style for this project. It's still an ongoing project. So if anybody's out there's a vinyl head, get in contact with Jenn, and I'll come and shoot your portrait if you're interested in it. Because I want to continue it. I've shot in Hong Kong and Taiwan and the UK for this. So I had something to show. I made a book. And I sent it off actually to The Independent in the UK and to The Guardian in the UK before I left. And I'll come back to that in a minute. So I was showing this, and this guy really liked my style. So he said, come and do this. And when I got here, I didn't want to stand on anybody's toes. So I started phoning the local foreign photographers and asked them, how much do you charge? Because I don't want to undercut people. I want to position myself in the market, which I think is fair rate. And they lied to me. They told me way more than they were actually earning. So I pitched myself in just a little bit below that because I'm new. And only later did I realise when I'd been working for this guy shooting these portraits for this branding company, the magazine they made, he said, you're charging twice as much as everybody else, but don't change your prices. I was like, oof, okay. So I had to make some adjustments, but it was like a little eye-opener. I thought, I see where you're playing. You're trying to sort of put me in a position where I'm going to charge myself out of it. I saw that in a way, I might be a threat, but later we've all met each other and it's kind of much more supportive. There's a funny bit. I mean, I'm sure you get it in all industries. And of course, I've traded off that. What I should have done is put more effort into learning Mandarin. I'm doing it now because that's the next level. It's going to take me to the next level in this career. But I pushed. So I was traveling around a little bit with my wife. So we'd go to Hong Kong or Singapore. Everywhere I went, I'd make an effort to go and visit somebody, magazine. And then when I got involved with National Geographic Traveller, that got me a few in the UK. So Nat Geo Traveller UK. I'm a big believer in if you can get an opportunity to meet somebody, to share food or a drink with them, because you'll get a different bond. And it worked. So I started then, there's no money in it, but there's a lot of kudos to shooting for that. And if you work it and you're smart, then you can get connections with it. So from working for National Geographic Traveller, I became a food GX photographer. So these things started popping up on my CV and people start thinking, oh, there's a bit more. And the more I shot, the better I got. You're always learning. I'm still learning. And if I'm not pushing myself to learn, then I'm not going to be giving the best service I can get. So you've just got to keep going and keep your eyes open for opportunities. And then a friend of mine recently said to me, oh, Duncan, I've just been asked to do this shoot for a sporting event, but it's only this much money. What should I do? And I just said to him, would you be earning any money if you weren't on that day? No. Have you got a child to feed? Yes. Well, there's your answer. You're better off doing something than nothing. Also, if you can accept it, obviously sometimes it's like, oh, that's a bit too much work for the money. That's fair enough. But a little bit, if it's like, okay, I can shoot a portrait. I'll do a portrait shoot, it's X thousand NT. I will tailor it for people and I'll give them something that they want. So I've learned all this through working. Yeah, all right, it's great. Those jobs come in, the commercial jobs come in and I make some pretty good money out of it and I deserve it because I'm good at what I do. But also, you have to scale it to the people. So I do that, I keep working. I went back to England a year later and I phone up. This is a big thing for me. I phoned up Sophie Battersby, who was the photo editor at the Independent newspaper. So you can imagine how much stuff comes across her desk every day. Hello there, my name is Duncan Longden. Oh, Duncan, you're the record guy. Literally like that. I went, yeah, you remember? She said, you've got it. She said, a lot of people don't get it, but you get it with portraits. And I was just like, wow, amazing. Then I started thinking, if I'd have had the bravery to show my work before I came to Taiwan, maybe I wouldn't have come to Taiwan. Maybe I would have done it more in England. But everybody who's a creative person or a creative, there comes a point where you have to show your work. And it's scary. But you have to just do it. Because nobody's going to see it if it's in a drawer, right?
When.
Yeah. And the only way you're going to learn is by showing it and then accepting the comments. Yeah, and that's what I learned at Birmingham. When I went to do photography at Birmingham, I went from a college that we had a crit, lasted a couple of hours and maybe half the team, the class turned up, to 2 or 3 days of presenting your own work, talking about the concept behind it, and then accepting criticism from your peers, who then graded you, as well as the tutor. So it's 40% student grading and 60% tutor on your final grade. So for me, that was a real growing experience.
Yeah.
And I try to do that with people now. So actually, I was a judge for a National Geographic photographic competition.
Oh.
And I told my friend here, I was taking photographs at a pool parties here, and I said to him, oh, this is happening. He said, are you qualified for that, Duncan? And I was just like, that's quite a nasty thing to say, but quite British. I had it when I was working at Joe's Basement. You're never going to make it in photography because your face doesn't fit. It happens. Wow. We get these knockbacks all the time, and it depends on how you take it. That makes me angry. It still makes me angry. Yeah, it's a horrible thing to say to somebody. A guy that's come from London, he's come to London, bright-eyed, bushy tail, wanting to make it, just to get a side swipe from some guy, and it's just jealousy. I think it's that person's shortcomings that are being reflected onto you, and that's the only way they can deal with it. My attitude is, I get assistance here. I use assistance as much as I possibly can. It helps me focus on my client and focus on my job, and I will help the assistant learn the trade. Yeah. And the craft, and then when they go up and become successful on their own, it's a bitter pill to swallow because they're leaving, but on the same time I'm proud of them and it's a good reflection on me. How can it not be? Where did you learn this? Oh, Duncan told me. Great. Okay, so it's an investment. Invest in people. Invest your time in people. Help people. Yes. It'll only be good for you. Yes, don't push people down. It's a horrible thing to do. And the old saying, if you haven't got anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And just try and be as constructive as possible. And it's paid off for me. So anyway, there we were. I could have thought, well, maybe I'll stay in England. And I said to Sophie, do you have any jobs in Taiwan? Not yet. But there's more stories happening here with the situation we won't go into with our neighbour. But, it leads on to other things. that access is happening here. One of my clients recently is Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. I got a job to go and shoot the portraits of their international executives, which was an amazing experience. I put this online, and my friend said, Duncan, you're taking photographs of the most powerful people in the world because of the access that's moving around their company. But they loved me. I mean, it was great. So I went, and then the National Geographic thing gave me an opportunity to travel as well, which was really nice. And then, so I was doing that, and gradually it grew and grew. And in 3 years, so my third or fourth year, I started picking up the tech companies here. And I did a long year's work of too much work. And I learned a lesson from that as well. It's okay to say no to work. Yeah. You can burn out, and I did. I was shooting a lot of stuff at ASUS, a lot of phones, a lot of laptops. It was a heavy workload, and I was doing it on my own, essentially in a bedroom, and thinking, if I don't do this, I don't know where the next job's coming from. My wife and I decided to have a baby, got pregnant very quickly, and it was great. Everything was going really well. So I had a really good year, good pay at the end of the year, swapped out all of my Nikon gear, bought in Sony because I wanted to start bringing video into my workflow, and then ASUS just dropped, boom. Not just me, but the other people that were working for them. They changed their design teams, changed their marketing teams. They bring in their own people, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, I haven't got any work. About to become a dad.
This is pre-COVID.
This is pre-COVID, so we're talking 2018, end of 2017, start of 2018. And then I started getting work with other people. GoDaddy, Facebook, Giant. Great, it's good. I'm making some good money. Things are on the up. Pregnancy's going really well. And June came, my daughter came, and my wife got really ill. And it was horrific. I watched somebody that was extremely organised, powerful, strong-minded, and together just break, essentially. And I found myself on my own with a newborn baby in a foreign country where I don't speak the language well, trying to keep my business going. I feel a bit emotional about it. I'm always going to. But it happened. And it happens to a very few people, to the degree that happened to my wife. Some people know about it and some people don't. However, this is 5 years ago. The journey's been very difficult. I've had support from friends around the world, but not necessarily support from, this is wrong, a few people, because I don't really talk about it too much to people, but a few people that knew about it. Some have been good and some have not really been there. They've got their own interests, that's fair enough. I don't hold any malice towards them. But I got support from friends, came from all around the world, which is amazing. And it's gone on. So after that, so I found myself in a situation where I was essentially alone in a house with a newborn baby, trying to keep the work going, keeping an eye on my wife who was in hospital for months and months and months. Then having to be forced to move house to a place where I didn't know, and wasn't, for me, a comfortable place to be living. And it made me I ended up in hospital because I got pneumonia. So I was in hospital for 3 days,
and that
4
was
days.
during COVID?
No, it's pre-COVID.
All of it was pre-COVID?
Yeah, it was all pre-COVID. That was all 2018.
18.
And it carried on. So 2019, my wife had come out of hospital, still not well. It's a long journey. And essentially, and I was still on my own, but I had this extra battle going on and still trying to work and establish myself. I realised I couldn't be doing the travel stuff. I had to bring it in. So I started focusing much more on the Taiwan market, product market, industrial market, and the portraits. So I shoot all the stuff for CEO magazine, love that. It introduced me to a lot of interesting people and gets my foot in the door. And again, it's all about making opportunities and looking at what's in front of you and adjusting yourself. We're adaptable, we're humans, we're adaptable, we have to be. We wouldn't have been so successful if if we weren't. So, okay, well, how do I do this? This is what I've got to do. And you just do the next thing. Some days it's just that, just do the next thing. It's the only way you're going to get through it. Just do the next thing. I've got a limited amount of time. There's no one looking after my daughter. It has to be between school hours or whatever, you know, get her there and back, keep her happy, keep her organised. And the other thing I realised is, you know, I'm a dad now. I've got a responsibility. I can't be drinking anymore. So I stopped. And when I stopped drinking, I started skateboarding again. Just came straight away. Well, I need that. Almost to the point where I stopped riding my motorcycle because I was getting more free mind space, focus and escape riding that skateboard. Yeah. So I didn't have the problems. If I'm not in this moment now, I'm going to hurt myself. So I have to be here.
Skateboarding's your meditation.
It is my meditation. Yeah. And recently my wife, you know, she's well on the mend, thankfully. And she's turned around and said, you want to come swing dancing? No, I'd like to, but I haven't got time. If there's a choice between doing that and going skateboarding, this is where I get my buzz. This is where I get my stress relief, is to do that. And I really like the community with it. Work-wise, when COVID happened, my work increased. I'm one of those people that benefited from COVID because people couldn't travel. So they had to find local talent. And I predicted it. I wrote an article in LinkedIn just when it started. This is what I think is going to happen. And it did. And I did really well, you know, just at the right time. Yes, of course, I still have my wife's family, could still look after Clover occasionally when I needed to be away for a day or two or work late. Great, thankful for that. But fortunately, a lot of it was something I could fit in during my daytime. And I'm lucky to be able to have done that. So that's kind of where it was going. I've had therapy. I had therapy in the 90s. It was useful. Can continue it. I had some therapy here. Fortunately, there's a very good place, which I can't even remember, the community centre, I think it's called, up in Tianmu.
They have all the English-speaking therapists.
Yeah, and also
That's where I went.
Yeah, and they can means test you as well. Yeah. So if you need help, and you don't know whether you can afford it or not, I would suggest going to speak to them.
Yeah.
And they'll help you. And then it just got to the point where the time of going there and everything else became difficult. Oddly enough, I did some work with Taipei American School. Excellent. Very nice people.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'd like to do some more. They've started actually, they've got a dark room and they've started doing film photography and dark room printing. And I've got skills I've been lucky enough to be taught by a guy called Max Ferguson, who was a master printer in the UK. I've done a few sessions with him and then working in the lab. And just general interest, I really love printing, so should be helping them learn a bit more skills on that, which is great. And if anybody wants to do any film photography, I'm happy to help people learn about film photography because it's a different psychology shooting on film. And actually, I've started a new project called 8 out of 10. So on my medium format camera, I get 10 frames on a roll of film, and what I'm trying to do is find subjects where I can go out, we'll do a session, and I want to make 8 good frames on a roll of 10. So for me, I think that's a reasonable challenge. It's quite difficult, but you have to think, you know, when I fire the shutter, if that person's blinked, I can't check it. Yeah. I have to know or don't know. That could be one of the 2 frames I let go of. So for me, it's interesting. And I started processing my own film again, which I kind of like. Clover's kind of into it too. But this year started really strongly. And then the banking crisis happened in America. And the people that were saying they're going to have a lot of work for me, it's gone. And it's not just me. It seems like a lot of people in the industry, from what I can see happening and reports online. It's been a serious downturn in advertising agencies and stuff. So I just have to find a pivot again. Yeah.
Wow.
So there we are.
There we are. Thank you for taking us down memory lane and sharing. And obviously each chapter in itself can be extended into its own
book
or conversation. And I think one of the key threads to your story is keeping an open mind and being curious and adapting to all your situations and finding your outlet that allows you to find clarity, right? So skateboarding for you admits all the things you've encountered, whether it's personal life and your career. So before we wrap up, I like to ask my guests these 3 questions. So my first question to you, but I guess you already kind of told us already, is what keeps you grounded?
Well, yeah.
Well, your daughter?
My daughter keeps me grounded, yeah. She definitely keeps me focused. And work, my motorcycle. I've got multiple things. It's not just one thing. I think skateboarding is probably my way of clearing my mind, clearing the noise. But to keep grounded, yeah, of course, I've got a mouth to feed. I've got a little girl to look after, and that's what keeps me grounded. I mean, that's it. That's essentially once that happened. Beforehand, I mean, you can see beforehand, my life was kind of all over the place.
She's been your focus. It's
right now, yeah. I needed it.
You need to do everything in your power to be there for her.
Yeah,
her.
Stability. That's all it. That's about the crux of it. Yeah. Beforehand, it was probably work, and still to a degree, my work keeps me focused. But when you've got that responsibility, I wouldn't put anybody off becoming a parent. I wish I'd done it sooner. That's one of my. I don't have many regrets, but yeah, being a dad's, I find it very fulfilling.
One of the greatest gifts.
Well, you could say that, but it's also, when you love someone so much it hurts. It's like you don't. It's made me more understanding of my parents as well. So it's put a whole different perspective on my life. Everything that's happened over the last 5 years has been really sobering.
Eye-opening as well.
And eye-opening, absolutely. Yeah. But, and then it's also being able to just say, right, okay, I've got through that, and now we've got through that. It's kind of like, well, once if I can achieve anything I want. Things have been really difficult. So life must be easier now, right? But we're always faced with challenges. But when you can learn, you can overcome a challenge.
You can do the next.
And you've got the skills to do it.
Yeah.
Just trust yourself.
Yeah.
And just listen. Listen to what you know is right. Spend some quiet time. Then get some clarity. You'll be all right.
So the second question is, what books or podcasts? I know you like to listen to podcasts because you mentioned that before.
I do.
Like during the moments of difficulties where you felt very alone and helpless, etc., whether it's moving marketplaces, trying to find opportunities, to having to deal with all that was going on at home domestically with your wife and your daughter, etc. What were some of the things that you were exposed to that helped you? And it could be a person, it could be like a mentor, it could be, obviously you said skateboarding, but if you had any particular resource that you felt that helped you along the way to share?
I think people come into your lives at the right time if you're open to it. And that certainly happened. I met a few people during the last year or so when I really needed people. They were there. They just turned up. One of them just came back to Taiwan. He went back to Chicago for a bit, but he just came back to Taiwan. And he's just a very quiet guy. But just this, his presence was there, and that was enough. Podcast-wise, I listen to all sorts of stuff. I watch all sorts of stuff, but mostly it's nothing to do with like self-help or anything. It's just, that's just something I could find interesting. I think a lot of people like real true crime, so I listen to Casual Criminalist. I think it's funny. Used to watch a fair bit of skateboarding stuff. But apparently, I did have one, but I don't know what happened. I was like really part of the community and always very positive. And I've spoken to them about it, but the guys like blocked me. Apparently, I said something. I don't understand why.
Oh, okay.
So I'm curious about why. And I said, "Can you see anything that I've said?" No. So it's a mystery. Their loss. But now I listen to Joe Rogan.
Okay.
I'm just one of the millions of people that sit there going, really? Quite a lot. But I quite like listening to the stuff about physics. Do I believe everything that's on there? No. But does it make me question things? Yes. Does it make me want to look further? Probably too much down the rabbit hole sometimes.
It keeps your mind going.
Yeah, but I've also read a lot to Clover. that's something that I've really enjoyed. I was terrible at reading, and but now I really love it. So not reading anything overly challenging. We just almost read all of the Roald Dahl books in a year.
Oh, I love Roald Dahl.
Yeah, so do I.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's kind of happened. I don't have much time to read stuff for myself anymore, but that's it. And now, of course, I've had to learn about video production.
Right.
So I brush up on that.
There's only 24 hours in a day.
Unfortunately.
So the last question, which we can take it two ways. One is, what would you tell your younger self what you know now? Or it could be like, what would be the 2 cents you would give to those listening to your episode, as kind of like a, here are Duncan's wise words, right?
Okay.
And I think you can take it from any angle you want, whether it is as a photographer, career-wise, which earlier on in the episode you did mention, like if you're just starting out, just take any gigs you can, regardless of how much the pay is.
Yeah.
If it's more on like the household side with, relationships and family and birth and all that, again, we didn't go too much into it today, but you were mentioning earlier, as a foreigner by yourself here, finding that support, navigating the environment as a guy to having to deal with postpartum, which again in the society, not even just here but globally, for men they don't really get that support,
No.
right? Which I think for our conversation when we met at the coffee shop that one time, that was so intriguing to me because I felt like, wow, we really should do more. So anyway, whichever angle you would like to share.
There's a lot of conversations online about male mental health and talking about it. And actually, I did reach out to a predominantly female forum, and the support was overwhelming. And I found that extremely useful. So thank you to all those lovely ladies out there that spent some time to listen and understand.
Well, and actually that's a good point, because you as your personality holds, you didn't care. It's like, oh, whatever, all female forum, I'm just going to go ahead and share.
Yeah, I think
help. A lot of men wouldn't reach out to an all-female forum, actually, right? So again, I think that's another kind of tip. Like, if you need to talk, just talk. Whoever's willing to listen, without judgment, just talk. You will be surprised on the receiving
You will
end
be surprised
what people will say.
Yeah, you'll be surprised because people go through it.
And it's okay to be vulnerable as
Absolutely.
a guy.
It's okay to be vulnerable as a human being.
Yeah.
And if we don't accept that we are, because we all are, it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot to tip over the edge and break. It's only a little imbalance and it's all over, for a bit anyway.
Yeah.
But there's help. I forgot what the question was.
Oh, your 2 cents.
Oh, my 2 cents,
Or your words, or
number
what
one,
would you tell your younger
as
self?
hard as it is, don't try not to be led by peer group pressure. I said it earlier. My brother said to me, and my brother said a lot of things to me, but he said to me, one of the things he said to me was, and this is why I did my motorcycle test, I'm better at everything than you are at anything. It's a horrible thing to say to somebody. Love my brother, don't worry. But these things happened, right? I wish I hadn't walked into the pub that day, and I wish I hadn't picked up that beer, because for me that was a weakness. Not for everybody, but for me it was. And now I've stopped. I've gone back to skateboarding, so kind of it doesn't matter. It's just a period of my life, but it kind of, the paths I might have taken differently. However, if I'd taken different paths, I wouldn't be where I am now. So it doesn't matter whatever's happened in my life. There's a lot of positives.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great stories, misadventures and adventures. And I've got a wonderful daughter, and we've got a future. Things are transient. Eckhart Tolle's quote, "We are the sun, and the clouds are the things that move in and out of our lives," resonates with me probably more than anything. Whatever's happening now that seems important, in a year's time it will be less important. Just be patient. We live in a life where everybody wants to be into everything all of the time. It's so instant. We look at our phones all the time. We always think, oh, that person's having a great life. They're probably not. Just be patient, and it will come to you. Don't just expect it though. We have to do things, right? But whatever's troubling you now will seem less important in a year's time, and just try and understand that you will get through it. And if you need it, reach out, and people will be there. That's probably my little bit of what I've learned over the last 50 years of my life. And when you're young, say yes to most things.
Yes.
You know, because life's an experience, right?
It is.
And don't regret for not trying something.
Beautifully said. Well, thank you for your time. Was there anything else you wanted to add on to our conversation before we bid farewell?
No, I don't think so. Just be true.
Just be true. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
That's all we have time for today. Thank you for listening to Curito Connects. For more Connects content, collaborations, and discoveries set to inspire you on your own individual journey, please head to our website at www.curito.co. Until next time, stay inspired, and thank you for joining us at Curito Connects.